Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's boy Rico from Street Scores. I know I'm a day late, but I still felt like I needed to break down this Washington Commanders signing of ex-Falcons, ex-4 NFL teams in 4 years defensive tackle Abdullah Anderson. Was really busy yesterday, so that's why I couldn't get it done yesterday. But there isn't going to be a Commander signing that I don't talk about, break down, report on, all of that type of stuff, no matter what, even if I got to do it a week later. So I want to dive into this whole Abdullah Anderson signing. Was it necessary? Is he being brought in as a potential real rotational piece, or is he just depth? Does he even have an honest chance of making the 53-man roster? This is our deepest position on the team. And how good was he for the Falcons or his previous teams? And again, does he even have a real chance of being on this team when we get to the regular season? He's going to be practice squad. Is he not even going to make it to the practice squad? And so, of course, I want to dive into our entire defensive line roster and depth chart and try to predict what the defensive line will look like on that final 53-man roster. We'll probably only keep like 9, maybe max 10. So does this guy really stand a chance? I want to look at some of his strengths and weaknesses and see where he fits with this team. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Sunday, including tomorrow, for the live call-in show where I open up the phone lines and y'all give y'all opinions on everything going on. Of course, this is going to be the big time free agency live stream. We could talk some draft, we could talk anything you want to, but I know this one's gonna more than likely be tailored towards the free agency and everything we just did. And of course, stay tuned for all of the content, any free agency moves, anything draft, anything new ownership, everything Commanders. Stay tuned. I will be updating y'all on every little thing. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so Falcons free agent defensive tackle Abdullah Anderson will be signing with the Washington Commanders pending a physical, according to his agent, Jeremy Appledorf of EMG Sports Agents. And like I said earlier, I mean, our defensive line is arguably the deepest position on our team. It's between defensive line and wide receiver. Which one of those is our best position group on the team? But as far as deepest, defensive line may have it. Who knows, the receiving group may get a little bit deeper throughout this offseason. Maybe through the draft, maybe we sign some random guys in free agency. Maybe Eric Bieniemy wants to even bring like a Georgia Bulldog McCole Hartman over as like a potential returner for us or something like that. Who knows? But if we're talking about deep, from the first guy to the last guy, the defensive line group probably has it. And so this defensive line group was already deep before we got him, and now you're adding them to that. I just respect the fact that he wasn't even intimidated by the situation. He's like, no, I'm gonna go over there and compete and earn my way on this team. So I highly respect that, because I feel like some people will probably be afraid of signing with the Commanders as a defensive lineman, because it's like, where do I even fit in? Where will I even get playing time? When will I get my opportunity? So that says a lot about him, that he's looking at Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne getting these big paydays, Montez Sweat and Chase Young first round picks that are playing with their careers on the line this upcoming season for their next big contracts. And then you have Fadarian Mathis, second round pick that we haven't even really seen anything from yet. The man John Ridgewell we picked up from the Cowboys early in the regular season exceeded all expectations. We just re-signed F.A. Obata to be a versatile edge rusher / defensive tackle. You can play him anywhere you need to on the defensive line, so that's positional flex. So not only do we have a really deep defensive line, we also have a couple of guys that can play multiple positions on the defensive line. We have some position flex guys. So man, again, shouts out to him for looking at this defensive line and being like, oh yeah, I can get there and I can make some noise. As like a linebacker or a corner, it makes a lot more sense, because you're like, this defensive line is so great, it's going to make my job easier. But if anything, as a fellow defensive lineman, you got to go in there and be on your absolute A game. You better put your best football that you've ever put in your life out there to even just make this 53-man roster squad, let alone be a part of the rotation during regular season games. But Abdullah Anderson still has a lot of potential to him. He's only 27 years old, and he also only has 8 career starts, all of which came in 2022 for the Atlanta Falcons. So even though he's played games for other teams, the Atlanta Falcons last year in 2022 was the first time he's ever started. And again, he only started in 8 games, again, all of them coming last season for the Falcons. But he has played on 4 different teams in 4 different years. So ever since he's been drafted, he's He's played for the Bears, the Vikings, the Packers, and then the Falcons, and now the Commanders. He stayed in the NFC with all of them. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. But ignoring his career, because again, the stats are a little weird. Never started a game before 2022, so I don't want to really dive into what he did in previous seasons, in any season before 2022. But looking at 2022, he had 40 tackles, 1 sack, 1 QB hit, 2 tackles for losses, and again, only 8 career starts. And that's pretty good. Now, Pro Football Focus grade-wise, 2022 was, of course, his highest grade he's had in his career. Wasn't great, 62.8, but it also wasn't bad. Now, he had a 60.3 run defense, but his highest grade was his pass defense. And if you look at every year that Pro Football Focus graded him, his pass rush was always the highest of his grades, bringing his overall average up. His run defense was bringing his average down. His pass rush grade was always bringing his average up. Now, I need to go definitely dive into his film and really look at what he's done. But he definitely seems like the type of guy that's more of a penetrator, get into the backfield and get to the quarterback, or maybe even get to the running back in the backfield, but not necessarily a double team eater, a space eater. But that's literally why we have Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway. That's what those guys do. So Abdullah Anderson has the play style more so tailored to what Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne do, especially now that we fired Sam Mills, and we even have Ryan Kerrigan involved as an assistant coach. We have Jess Ganina, who became the official defensive lines coach, period. We had Warren Sapp involved, and pretty much all of their messages completely contrasted with Sam Mills III's message. Sam Mills III wanted the defensive linemen to basically do what Alabama and Georgia defensive linemen do, which is just stay put, read both gaps, and allow everybody else to make plays. As a defensive lineman, you don't make the plays. You set everybody else up to make the plays. But then when we fired Sam Mills III, Warren Sapp, Ryan Kerrigan, and Jeff Ganina, most importantly, switched over to the methodology that, hey, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, forget everything else you've been doing since we drafted you. Forget what you were doing in college for Alabama as well. Right now, we want you to be the ones to make the plays. You get in the backfield. You go get the quarterback. You go make the run defense stop in the backfield rather than just eating up space. Again, that's more of a Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway thing, because both of those guys are more so nose tackle than like 3-tech defensive tackles. Even though they can play it, I prefer them at nose tackle, eating up a bunch of space and allowing everybody else to do their jobs. So again, Abdullah Anderson, of course, nowhere near as good as Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, but he does flash sometimes from the little bit of film that I've seen. Again, I want to dive into more film to truly get a better idea of who this is and how you can contribute. But so far, just from looking at a few plays, he looks more like a penetrator, more of like a Jonathan Allen type of role than a Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway role, which again is what this defensive line's coaching staff now wants from this defensive line. They value penetration more now rather than space eaters. And then again, even if they did value space eaters a lot, we already have 2 certified ones, so we'll be fine anyway. If you're gonna bring anybody in, it's gonna be somebody with more disruptive potential like an Abdullah Anderson. And it's also really interesting too, because the Falcons took Heineke away from us and we took Abdullah Anderson from them, so it's kind of like we traded. Would have been nice if we could have netted a draft pick from it, from an official trade, but it is what it is. But 53-man roster wise, let's analyze it. Let's go from defensive end to defensive tackle. This guy seems more like a defensive tackle, but he's gonna do whatever it takes to make this roster, whether it's defensive tackle or defensive end. So let's say if we're only keeping 9, which is more than likely gonna happen, we'll try to stretch it to 10, but 10 is the very max. We're not going above 10. I highly doubt it, but 9 is most likely. So of course you have Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, Chase Young. Those are your 4 right there. Mathis and Ridgeway make 6 automatically, because not only do both of those guys have a lot of potential to them and have a lot of talent, but they also fill a role that nobody else on this defensive line fills. Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, love them. Both pro bowlers, arguably all pro guys, but they don't do what Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway do. They have a specific role on this team that even Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne don't really tap into that much. And you don't want them to. You want Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, with as athletic and explosive and strong as they are, to go and penetrate. Let Phidarian Mathis and John Ridgeway do the Shane Battier, Tony Allen type of stuff, the dirty work, and y'all go out there and eat and put up those stats and get those big contracts. So again, that's 6 alone. Then they just re-signed F.A. Abada. Ron Rivera's always talked about him over and over again, about how much he loves his positional flex and versatility, edge rusher, defensive tackle, whatever you need him to do. And he's shown the ability to get into the backfield and get after the quarterback and penetrate from either position. Then Casey Toohill surprised quite a few people last year. He balled out, so I'm expecting him to make it. And then the Commanders have shown that they love James Smith-Williams. I mean, the guy started in place of Chase Young until Chase Young was healthy. So he's pretty much certified to make the roster. He's safer than Casey Toohill and F.A. Abada. He was literally the starter opposite of Montez Sweat while Chase Young was hurt. That's your 9 already. So we still got Shaka Toney, who I love, and I feel like we still need to go ahead and move him to like an outside linebacker, Sam-like role. Shouts out to my boy Washington Command Center because he agrees. He has so much potential as Sam linebacker with his athleticism, his change of direction skills, and things like that. I feel like he could be great in coverage. I remember even during the Senior Bowl and in the beginning of our like mini camps or something like that, when we first drafted him, we had him at linebacker and trying to go out there and cover and things like that, like as an off-ball linebacker and not like an edge rusher, hand in the dirt linebacker. But for some reason that never went anywhere, but I still believe in that. And then you have William Bradley King, who seems to always make the practice squad no matter what. You have Benning Patoa, I believe that's how you pronounce that. Then you have David Bada, and then after all of that, you add in Abdullah Anderson, all fighting for that 10th spot, even if that 10th spot is even there. Because if we only keep 9, that means Abdullah Anderson is not only going to have to beat out Shaka Toney, William Bradley King, Benning Patoa, and David Bada, but he's going to have to beat out somebody between Casey Toohill and Efe Obada to get that last spot if it's only 9. But if it's 10, he's going to have to beat out all of those other guys to get that last spot. So, I mean, I feel like at the very least, based on what I've seen, and it seems like the Commanders like him quite a bit. They believe in his potential. I think they kind of see him as like a Cody Barton. They're both like, what, 26, 27 years old, going into the end of their rookie contracts, getting their first new deals after their rookie contracts. And they just started to scratch the surface in their final seasons right before becoming free agents. And they view both of those guys as gems that we picked up, and their best playing days are ahead of them. And that Anderson and Cody Barton could end up contributing way more than their previous teams thought that they could. They feel like they found diamond in the rough with both of those guys. So I feel like they believe in Anderson enough to where they're going to try to find a way for him to make this team in some way, somehow. Unless he goes out there during training camp and things like that and doesn't step up to the plate, and or somebody else steps up to the plate even harder than he does. So I'm not guaranteeing that he'll even make the 53-man roster, which is crazy. That's how deep our defensive line is. He was starting for the Falcons half of their season last year, and on our defensive line, he may not even make the team. But again, I love the fact that he looked at this situation, was like, okay, bet, let's get it type of thing. I love that. So I'm really hype about him. Again, from the little bit that I watched him, he has a lot of potential. If we're talking about ceiling, out of the 5 guys fighting for that 10th spot, you can argue he has the highest ceiling. And the Commanders may just believe in that alone. And again, I love the mentality. So I'm pretty sure he's going to work his tail off and do what he has to do to make this 53-man roster. If he doesn't, oh well, I'm pretty sure we signed him for very cheap. But I'm really excited about his potential. Because right now, we have a guy that started 8 games in the NFL last season, fighting for his life. Probably on a cheap 1-year little prove-it deal, fighting for his next big contract. He sees this as his opportunity to make enough noise to where even if the Commanders aren't the ones that give him a big contract after the season, he's going to go out there and audition for another team to do so. So he's going to put 110% into every play, every day, every week, every practice, all of that. So I'm really excited. This is basically a high reward, low risk signing. There's definitely a certain ceiling to this that's hard to grasp, but we don't really lose much by having him in the room. And again, I'm pretty sure we paid him pennies in comparison to what we pay other football players, even though I'm pretty sure he's making the type of money that I would wish I could make this year that he's going to make. But still, cap space wise, he doesn't put much of a dent into it. So again, not much of a risk, and I'm really excited. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Let me know how you feel about this Abdullah Anderson situation. Do you feel like he has an honest, strong chance to even make the 53-man roster, let alone actually contribute and be a part of a big rotation during regular season games? Do you think he even has a chance to get onto the field in September, October, November, December? The talent is there. The potential is there. If he continues on his trajectory, just like Cody Barton, the linebacker from the Seahawks that we signed, if based off of what we've seen them do most recently and not throughout their entire career so far, and if they just keep getting better and better, I can expect Anderson to actually be a pretty diddly underrated signing this offseason. So I'm excited. Let me know how you feel. And of course, man, I appreciate all the support. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you scroll on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.